This video is a quick review of the Orbea Gain M20. The M is for carbon, D is for aluminum. This is the M20i. The I is for the fully carbon wheels and different components. The 1X is for the gravel version, which comes with gravel tires and no front derailleurs. I'm going to cover first what nobody talks about in their Orbea bicycle reviews, and then I'm going to cover what you can read in the brochure or what you can find on the internet. So this is what nobody talks about or fails to talk about, is the lack of backlight in their head display unit or computer display unit. As you will see, there is no option to turn on the backlight on the display unit because there isn't one. So if you're riding this bicycle in the dark, you will not be able to see what's displayed on the head unit or the computer display unit. Now what's funny, the bicycle itself is up to date. It's fully carbon. It has great shapes and forms on the carbon cuts on the frame. Now here's the funny part. The bike is 2020, 2021 current, but the display unit looks like something from the 90s. And the bicycle, Orbea company, was founded in 1840, and they started building bicycles in 1930, US calendar. So that's the funny part. The bicycle is 2020, 2021, with display unit from the 90s, and a company that was founded in 1840 and started building bikes in 1930. Now, the Orbea head display unit compared to the Giant Road E+1 2021 head display unit, it is a whole different ballpark. Comparing the two bicycles, it is a whole different ballpark. The Giant is a class 3, mid-drive, mid-motor, 80 newton meters output or up to. The Orbea is a class 1, rear hub motor, up to 4 newton meters of torque output. 500 watt hours battery on the Giant. On the Orbea, 248 watts, or call it 250 watt hours. Lower inner tube battery. Not comparing the other bicycles. You want to know about the Giant bicycles, look at my other videos. Now, what is good about the head display unit or computer unit that comes standard equipped on Orbea electric bicycles by eMotion is that the display does give you certain information. This is the bike battery power. The top left corner is the display battery power. Also, you can adjust the assist level using the left and right arrows on the display unit. 0, 1, 2, 3. Or you can adjust it here by pressing the button twice. Green, level 1. Yellow, level 2. Red, level 3. White, no assist. You can do it here from the display. Distance, odometer, the timer, and back to battery power. But one would think, considering the cost or the retail value of this Orbea Gain M20i 1X electric road bicycle, you would think they would put a head unit with at least a backlight where you can see in the dark what it is displaying, or an LCD screen, or an upcharge of $50, $100, or $150 to put a better head unit with a bicycle. You would think that would be the case, considering the cost or retail value of this bicycle, but it is not. Now, you can put a Wahoo or a Garmin head unit or computer unit system on this bicycle. It is a Garmin mount, or you can use your phone and the app, but the problem is you have to find a Garmin mount to mount with your phone, and usually those are all sticky mounts. And considering, you have to also factor in or consider the amount of weight that this mount can handle. But then those Wahoo or Garmin computer units, your speedometer is going off the GPS. It's not going off the speed sensor like this Bluetooth LCD unit. It's getting information from the bicycle via Bluetooth and the speed sensor. This is a more accurate speed reading, and it tells you the battery level. The Wahoo or the Garmin computer unit, if you do switch the head or computer unit on this bicycle, you will not get those information, and your speedometer will not be as accurate as a speed sensor, because those speedometers are GPS. This is a speed sensor speedometer. Moving on to what information you can read from the brochure or find on the internet. As I've mentioned, it is a lower inner tube battery with 248 watt hours, call it 250 watt hours of battery power. It is a rear hub drive motor with 250 watt power and up to 40 newton meters of torque. X35 by iMotion or e-bike motion. It does have the Shimano GRX .810 shifters, RX 810 by Japan, made in Japan. The crank is Shimano RX 810. Also, and the rear derailleur here has a tension stability switch on the rear derailleur. Don't get it twisted. It is not an electronic shifter or electronic shifting rear derailleur. It is an option to replace your crankset and have a front derailleur installed. This is where you charge the bike. This is the 1X gravel version of the M20, the Gain M20i. It comes with Pirelli 700 by 35 tires. Now, the tires option may be different depending where you purchase your bike. Now, somebody here at the dealer or authorized retailer didn't care enough to put a long enough of a valve stem on this carbon wheel. As you see here, the stem length is inadequate to fit a pump fitting to pump air into the tires. They had to put this valve stem adapter or extender in order to pump air into the tires, which is the reason why I'm going to install these Specialized Pathfinder 700 by 38C tires with long enough of a valve stem where you don't need this crazy adapter. I do not know why the dealer or the authorized retailer didn't even care enough to put a long enough valve stem on this bicycle when I purchased it. The tube is inexpensive. They should have done it considering the price of the bicycle, or pay attention to that detail. The 700 by 38C is a bit beefier tire. I think it has better tread pattern than the Pirellis, even though the Pirellis may be a little bit more stiffer on the side walls. So I'm going to put the 700 by 38C in place of the 700 by 35C. The frame can fit up to a 700 by 40C according to the specs from Orbea. It doesn't come with any pedals. This is just an inexpensive plastic pedals that's just in place for now. The pedals that I want to put on the bicycle hasn't arrived yet. This is not the standard equipped saddle. This is a much better saddle than what comes standard from Orbea. Now also, you can go tubeless on the tires. The other thing I want to show is the blue papers or the blueprint manual on the bicycle. Doesn't give much information about this front brake wire or how to disassemble it to inspect the fork tube. As you see, it's hydraulic. It's not going to be just a simple task. There's other bullshit on here, but the valuable information would be the wheel torque spec, or the wheels nut torque spec. You can't focus. The minimum is 18 newton meters. The max is 25 newton meters on the wheel nut torque. A few other things. The light meanings. Basically, When it's white, you have 75 to 100%. When it's green, it's 50 to 75. When it's red, it's 0 to 25, and there's actually another option for 10 and 15%. You'll have blinking red. So I have the rear wheel up from the ground. We should hear what the bike sounds like, shall we? This is with the power off. It sounds to me more like a jet turbine or parked jet engine with the turbine rotating from the force of the wind on the tarmac. A jet airplane parked on the tarmac with the jet turbine rotating from the wind. That's what it sounds like to me. Rotating by the wind. Park jet engine, turbine rotating by the wind. So let's see with the power on. We'll do assist 1. Just give it a go. Of course, it's going to keep cutting off at 20 miles per hour. It is a class 1. So there it is. Folks, what we basically have here is a bicycle that is made in Spain. Drive components, Shimano, that is made in Japan, and Pirelli tires, that is made in Italy. But it is about to have specialized tires installed, an American company, but parts manufactured in China. Those are the pedals that I've wanted to install on this bicycle. They're by HT Components. The weight of the Orbea Gain electric road bicycles, depending on your frame material, M for carbon, D for aluminum. The carbon frame, the weight is supposed to be between 23 and 25 pounds, depending on your frame size, and if you so choose to go with fully carbon wheels or carbon rims. Showing the spectators how we do, huh, Uncle? Or Tio in Spanish, Lung in Thai. Cheers, cup. this wraps up my video. A quick review of the Orbea Gain M20i 1X electric road bike. Real quick, one thing about the wheel locking nut or retaining nut or skewer, the blue papers by Orbea or blueprint manual, it does state that the rear locking retaining nut should be between 18 and 25 Newton meters is the correct torque specs. But if you notice, the diameter size of the retaining nut compared to the size of the front wheel retaining nut, it is a world of difference. The front retaining nut diameter, it's much smaller than the rear retaining nut diameter. So if the correct torque spec for this retaining nut diameter is between 18 and 25 Newton meters, as the manual states, then the front correct torque specs for the retaining nut should be less than the rear because it is smaller than the rear. But guess what? Doesn't say anything about it in the manual. That's how flimsy this is. Nothing. Not a thing about the front wheel torque retaining nut or skewer anywhere in the blue papers manual by Orbea. Only the rear wheels. So, I would just snug it. Don't go too crazy because it's carbon fiber. Look at the aluminum one here. Now this one is not a rear hub motor, so a small skewer or retaining nut, retaining pin on that one. It's approximately the same size in diameter, and it calls for 11 Newton meters. And the front here is only 5.5 Newton meters. But these has markings on it. That's a giant. But then compared to Orbea, there's nothing written on the manual about the front retaining nut, skewer, or pin, whatever you want to call it. Just keep that in mind. It is a safety thing. Folks, one more thing. I didn't introduce my uncle correctly, or one of my uncles, and he is worthy to be introduced properly. Why? Because he's a Vietnam veteran. One of my uncles here. What year were you born, sir?
1951.
And when were you in Vietnam War, the Vietnam conflict? What year?
1971 until 1972.
Wow. You have any photos to prove it, sir? Look at this man. One of my uncles. So that makes you 70 years old, turning 71 soon, and you're still kicking it strong. 1951, what is that in Thai calendar? 2494 in Thai calendar is 1951 in US calendar. Sir, on behalf of approximately 350 million Americans and approximately 50 million undocumented Americans, we thank you for your service.